I'll start things off with chocolate truffle fudge, which has the creaminess of a chocolate truffle, but yet that graininess and the sweetness you expect in chocolate fudge. So I have 3/4 of a cup of unsalted butter here in my bowl, and I'm going to weigh in 8 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate. And it is important when you see a recipe call for ounces of chocolate that you weigh it. It's the combination of this creamy chocolate butter mixture that I'm going to melt together, along with the sugar that I'll add later that creates that fudge texture. I'm gonna place my chocolate and butter over a water bath. It's barely simmering, and I'm gonna stir this until it's melted. There we go. I don't need to cool the chocolate at all, so I can get right to the next step of the fudge recipe. And that is boiling some sugar. I start with 1/2 cup of sugar with about 2 tablespoons of water and a tablespoon of corn syrup. What I need to do is bring this sugar mixture up to a full boil. The interesting part about making a fudge candy is that you need to liquefy your sugar, but then you need it to crystallize again after it cools for a little bit. That process is called seeding, and that's what gives fudge its textbook creamy, but yet slightly grainy texture. It's there, but then it melts away into nothingness. Once you see that your sugar is completely dissolved, it's bubbling, the mixture is clear, then it comes right off the heat, and carefully whisk it in 1/2 cup of condensed milk. Now it is important to make sure your condensed milk is in either a tempered glass or metal bowl, so that the hot sugar doesn't melt or crack your bowl. And now that that's combined, and this is essentially the fudge base, now I whisk in my melted chocolate and butter. When you start to see this mixture thicken and pull away from the bowl a little bit, stop whisking. I'll quickly add a splash of vanilla and a pinch of salt. And at this point, once you have everything combined, you know what you do? Absolutely nothing. For 5 minutes, you just let this sit. It's an important step because this is starting the seeding process where that liquid sugar now starts to crystallize again. So while I let this sit, I'll get my pan ready for the fudge. I like to grease the pan, so I'll just use a little melted butter. And then to line my pan, I have a square of parchment paper, and I fold it into quarters. I just cut a notch where the corners meet. Now that it's been 5 minutes, what you want to do is take a spatula or wooden spoon. See that crackle starting at the top? That's the beginning of the crystallization. This is an important step. Give this a vigorous stir by hand. So now that it's been a minute, I can, while it's still fluid, pour it into my prepared pan. And it does set up at room temperature if you let it sit. Takes a little time. I'll let this fudge set, but when I want to slice it, I actually like to chill it down, at least for an hour. It just slices easily that way. There it is, out of the container. And you see that matte finish on the surface? And inside, that's that textbook fudge look. Very different than, say, a chocolate ganache that has more of a satin look to it. Go. And the handy thing is, you can store this at room temperature. It's very stable. In fact, it's so stable that I packed this in my suitcase along with a number of other fudge samples because when I was playing with fudge making, I wanted an expert taste tester. And I went to visit my father, and he has a real sweet tooth. This was the one he picked. For a little polish, I'll dust these with a little icing sugar. And it kind of reminds you that there's a truffle taste to this. This is not just your everyday fudge. Though once you start eating it, you might like it every day. And there you have it, a quick chocolate truffle fudge. You know, and unlike chocolate truffles, fudge doesn't melt in your hands. Mmm.